All right, thank you, Bill. Well, it's official. Ground has been broken now for the Studio Park project in downtown Grand Rapids. We've been reporting on this here on 24 Hour News 8. The $140 million development is just south of the Van Andel Arena. That'll feature a movie theater, hotel, apartments, office space, and a parking ramp. Also today, the Facebook page was launched for Studio Park, and check it out. They're having a little fun with the first shot of construction. Star Wars twist there. Darth Vader and the stormtroopers working on the ground where the development will stand.
The West Michigan Whitecaps are giving back and showing young students in Grand Rapids the importance of reading.
Still to come, how players spent their day celebrating March's Reading Month.
Former First Lady Betty Ford's centennial birthday took center stage at Meyer Gardens today, bringing big names like Hillary Clinton to town. You'll hear from her coming up at 5:30.
A major construction project getting underway in 1 week. Coming up, we have the details on how to get around it.
The city of Chicago is receiving a major tool to reduce violent crime.
It's a $10 million donation from a billionaire hedge fund manager. The funds will be used for public safety reforms, smart policing, training, early intervention, stress management, and mental health resources. Superintendent Eddie Johnson credits the centers with helping to reduce shootings and homicides across the city, especially in two areas where there's a high concentration of crime.
This gift gives us the chance to take what we've learned with the SDSCs, continue to strengthen their effectiveness, and apply it in other ways so we can fight crime, as well as our data platform.
The man responsible for the donation is Ken Griffin. He previously donated $125 million to the University of Chicago's Economics Department. Some special deliveries today in West Michigan.
Whitecaps players distributed books to schools in Grand Rapids. This year, the team is distributing some 5,000 books to 15 schools. The program started a couple of years back with 300 books donated to one school, and since then it has continued to grow. Each school receiving books hosts an assembly that recognizes the importance of reading. Whitecaps players like Burris Warner, Zach Shepard, and Garrett McCain handed out books and read to students.
It's a wonderful opportunity to match our school with the community, and the Whitecaps have just been really wonderful in providing this opportunity for players to come and work with the kids and to read to them and give the kids an experience that is unlike anything else.
The book distribution is part of the Whitecaps effort for Reading Month. Millions deal with it, but there could be a way around it for future generations. Still to come, how research here in Michigan may put an end to peanut allergies.
And dozens of Flint residents outraged over the lingering water crisis in their city, hopping on a bus to the Capitol. After the break, we'll show you how these residents are calling for action.
Today, our warmest day so far this month, and now we've got warmer weather on the way and something brewing off to our west. A lot to talk about coming up.
Is 24 Hour News 8.
Former First Lady Betty Ford was born 100 years ago this month. A celebration of her achievements as First Lady at Meyer Gardens brought together some notable former residents of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
24 Hour News 8's political reporter Rick Alvin was there and joins us for the story.
Former presidential nominee Hillary Clinton was one big name at the event, celebrating Betty Ford's leadership in the White House and beyond. Clinton, along with other panelists and speakers, spent their time remembering a role model and a precedent-setting First Lady.
First ladies are very important. Not only do they have their own causes, but they can make a big difference. And I think my mother was one of the starters of changing the role of the First Lady.
Former First Daughter Susan Ford Bales and her brothers have made a point of preserving the legacy of their mom, Betty Ford, as well as President Ford.
We all know about her work on behalf of breast cancer because it wasn't just her openness about it. It was so reassuring and invigorating to have an important person, let alone our First Lady, who was so open and honest and personal about the struggles. But
the
then
former
she went
First
on.
Lady, Secretary of State, and U.S. Senator also said Ford's outspoken
better
leadership
breast cancer
in trying to pass the Equal Rights Amendment was inspiring to a generation of women. It was Linda Johnson Robb, daughter of President Lyndon Johnson, who recalled a special tour by Mrs. Ford of the White House personal quarters where she once lived, on the very day the First Lady was facing some very serious issues.
We then went home, Mother and Lucy, and we went back to our house in McLean, and there we heard that she was going on to the hospital to have an operation. And even now, it just makes me tear up to think that she would spend her last times, minutes of that day with us instead of nestled with her children or feeling sorry for herself. And she was not a pity person.
Today's forum talking about Betty Ford was very much about her influence in advancing issues important to women. Only briefly did former Secretary of State Clinton talk about the current political climate, lamenting some of the personnel moves at state in the last year or so. Largely, though, today's event was about Betty Ford and her enduring legacy.
And now we are turning to a first look at our weather at 5:30. West Michigan enjoying some sunshine right now. We have warmer temperatures on tap. Storm Team 8 meteorologist Kyle Underwood is in the studio to talk a little bit about it. Kyle?
Hey there, Sue and Brian. Today's high temperatures put us only 1 degree cooler than normal, and finally tomorrow we are going to break the streak of 2 weeks of subnormal temps here in West Michigan as we will crack the 60-degree mark for the first time since February. It's been a long time coming. Tonight, we've got some showers off to the west. This is a warm front kind of pushing this moisture our way, and we'll see rain move in here probably pretty close to midnight. And as the back front of the moisture moves out toward 3 or 4 in the morning, an isolated thunderstorm is actually possible. So we'll be watching for that here early tomorrow morning. Right now, 53 Grand Rapids, our warmest so far here in April, 58 here in Kalamazoo, and we are in the 60s south of I-94 right now. Sturgis clocking in at 63, but you can see it's quite a bit cooler to the north. Big Rapids now, you were at 49. Forecast calls for some rain to push in late. Southwest winds between 5 and 10, and our sunset tonight's at 8:21. More cloud cover tonight for sure. And again, we do have an isolated thunderstorm chance here as we head toward daybreak. So the weekend is going to be a bit of a mess. We're going to peel back the layers of that onion. Big weekend storm coming our way in about 10 minutes.
The Michigan Appeals Court has affirmed the murder conviction of Sean Phillips, the man charged with killing baby Kate in 2011. 4-month-old Catherine Phillips' body was never found. She disappeared from the Ludington area in 2011. Sean Phillips had appealed his second-degree murder conviction, saying that without his daughter's body, there wasn't enough evidence to convict him. But the appeals court disagreed, ruling that there was plenty of circumstantial evidence. He is serving a minimum of 19 years in prison on that conviction.
People from Flint, fed up with the ongoing water crisis, are taking their message to the state capitol.
Dozens of Flint residents loaded up buses and crowded into the state capitol in Lansing today to show their outrage over the state's decision to end bottled water distribution in Flint. Activists gathered to chant and cheer with an earshot of lawmakers in session. Down the hall, at least one person was taken out of the building by police. Last week, the state announced that stations handing out free bottled water would be shut down because tests show the water is now safe.
We're learning more about a construction accident that injured a worker in Battle Creek this morning. It happened just before 8:30 at West Rock Paper Distributor on Angel Street. A 65-year-old man was hurt after a system failed and sent a beam tumbling 10 feet before hitting the man in the head and pinning him underneath it. Crews used a forklift to lift the beam off of him. He was taken to the hospital. No word on his condition tonight.
We're working to learn more about what started a fire at the MGM Grand in Detroit this afternoon. The hotel and casino had to be evacuated, although no one was hurt. Firefighters say the fire was mostly contained to the air ducts, but they're not sure how it started. Are you dealing with constant neck pain? They say put down the phone.
Coming up, how texting could be contributing to your nagging neck.
And making another major bank making headlines in the world of gun control after the breakout Bank of America is cutting off lending to certain gun makers.
And all new at 6 o'clock, Grand Rapids businesses weigh in on development plans in several neighborhoods. Bank of America says they're going to stop lending money to certain gun manufacturers.
The company will stop lending money to those who make military-inspired firearms for civilian use. The bank not naming any specific manufacturers it works with, but its clients do include some of the well-known brands. The bank says it will wind down its relationships with the companies that choose to continue making AR-15 style rifles and similar guns. Last month, Citigroup announced that it would require business customers to restrict certain types of firearm sales.
If you suffer from serious neck pain while looking at your phone, you may have a condition known as text neck. The condition comes from bending your neck too far for too long. One doctor says when you bend your neck to a 30-degree angle, you're putting about 40 pounds of force on your upper back. Doctors say if you have persistent neck pain, that's when it's time to go see your doctor to try and figure out what's causing it.
Strawberry season's upon us, but before you indulge, you might want to wash up. Research shows that for the third year in a row, strawberries are among the dirtiest of fruits and vegetables out there. Researchers with the Environmental Working Group say that dozens of fruits and veggies are contaminated with pesticides. Spinach came in second, followed by apples and grapes. That group says close to 70% of all non-organic food has some sort of contamination. Millions across the country suffer from peanut allergies, but new research from the U of M might change that.
Scientists there are inching closer to a vaccine that's aimed at preventing peanut allergies. Research is still early, but the vaccine works by changing the way immune cells respond to allergens. The next step will be to see if the protection has a lasting effect.
And if you are just happen to be looking for some vintage steel grating from the Mackinac Bridge, you are in luck.
The Bridge Authority is selling 7 sections of original steel from the bridge deck. Each piece is over 5 feet wide and over 38 feet deep. Here's the catch. Each piece weighs 2 tons. Each piece is about 60 years old. Opening bids are set at $160. President Trump putting pen to paper on a new bill that will battle sex trafficking. Coming up, how a new bipartisan measure will hold websites accountable for having a hand in sex trafficking.
House Speaker Paul Ryan announces that he will not seek re-election. This as the country waits to see how President Trump will respond to those chemical attacks in Syria. I'm Blaine Alexander with all of that covered from Washington.
Rain, snow, and freezing rain all in the forecast for this weekend, and it all depends on where you live. We'll break that down coming up next.